The first speaker we have signed up is Amal Bhagat Karazi, and on deck is Myrna Gordon. You'll have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning. For the record, we're missing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of our legislators. My name is Amal Bhagat Karazi. I'm a Palestinian American illustrator and living in the village of Port Jefferson. For the record, our 18 legislators have been handed a resolution calling for a Mideast ceasefire and divestment, with material describing the occupation, apartheid, and genocide of Palestine. Though you don't vote on sense resolutions, nothing prevents you from using your collective voice to press U.S. congressional members and state senators into permanent ceasefire. And we thank Legislator Kennedy and those of you who are already working on just that. Last month, I described Israel's destruction of every library in Gaza, a scholasticide that includes the obliteration of 13 of 13 universities, done in a manner designed, targeted, and frenzied. Tearing faces off buildings or bodies, it doesn't seem to make a bit of difference to them. In Gaza, children hold press conferences demanding their human rights and the right to live. These children, Semites and indigenous to Palestine, are forced to tell you, we face extermination. We run from death to death. We run to hospitals for protection, but there's more bombing. The occupation is starving us, and the water is unusable. We shout to invite you to protect us. We want our education, and we want to live in peace like other children. In turn, children from Italy to Ireland have spoken out, demanding that adults break this apparent cabal of damaging silence. And this recording is a tiny part of the U.S.-Israeli response to our children and their trauma.
Can't deny what seems to be coming next, and that is a lot of us are going to get killed.
Meet them, see them, and pray that they are alive in a few days' time.
Suffolk County, New York harbors weapons and AI technology manufacturers whose products track and kill these children. We're asking you to help stop this systematic and perpetual destruction of entire civilizations, from Palestine, Israel, to Lebanon and beyond. We need you to speak to help stop the horror, because these are children and they're not disposable. We can be quiet when they're asleep, but not when they're being killed. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Myrna Gordon, and on deck is Christine Hash. Myrna, are you here?
Yes.
Okay.
On Monday, November 11th, at the 11th hour, on the 11th month, you attended your local Armistice Day ceremonies. You most probably repeated over and over again to those veterans attending, thank you for your service. I still call it Armistice Day because that's what my father called it, dressed in his Marine Corps uniform, with me standing near him in the small Ulster County community where I grew up in the foothills of the Shawangunk Mountains. My father served in World War II in the South Pacific. He fought in some of the most horrific battles, receiving 2 Purple Hearts and a Bronze Star. He recovered for several months in China, but he never fully recovered. He was shot twice badly, and shrapnel was lodged in multiple places in his body, including his head, where a metal plate was inserted. With all of his pain and agony, he became a police officer until he died when he was 57 years old of brain cancer caused by the metal plate. The Marine Hymn song was the very first song I learned, and I still sing it today on different occasions. To the legislators who are not here, and to all of you, I am the proud daughter of a United States Marine. Proud daughter. My Uncle Irving, who served in World War II, was 23 years old when he was killed in the Battle of the Bulge. He was a medic in the Army, and rushing to the aid of another soldier, he was killed by a sniper at the Battle of the Bulge. His mother, my grandmother, never recovered losing her baby boy. Our country's military has been in a permanent state of conflict for the past 250 years, and the cost of this global destabilizing has been devastating. Americans, like all of us, continue to pay in blood, lives, and tax dollars, which is desperately needed here in Suffolk County. In years to come, when you are asked, what did you do to stop the genocide in Gaza? How will you answer? You cannot deny it. You cannot say it didn't happen. And in closing, I would ask that you read a poem that was written in 1918 by Sigrid Sassoon. It's called Suicide in the Trenches. You should read it every Armistice Day, every Memorial Day, and as you still say, Veterans Day. Please do something about this horrible genocide. The poem is Suicide in the Trenches. It was written in 1918. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Christine Pash, and on deck is Selma Mohammed. Christine, are you here? No? Okay. We're going to then go to Selma Mohammed, and on deck is Lisa Serenelli.
Well, so I've been speaking every month the past 7-8 months, and I realized I never really introduced myself. So I've grown up in Suffolk County. I worked at the Brentwood Public Library for 3.5 years. I started out there as a page. I studied for 6 years at Stony Brook University. I did biomedical engineering. And after October 7th, became a full-time activist after seeing what we've been seeing online. And today we're speaking about veterans. And I went to a small demonstration for Palestine outside the Stony Brook campus some months ago. And at the train station outside, there was a veteran that had joined us, and he was wearing his military jacket, and he started talking, and I started to say thank you for your service, and he had this look on his face as if he disapproved. And he started to tell me how he went to Afghanistan, and he saw US soldiers doing messed up shit, in his words. And he didn't elaborate, but I could read between the lines. And I asked him, were those the lower ranking soldiers or the leadership? And he told me both. And he said he dreamed of entering the military since he was a child, and he told me it ruined his life. Then we had we talked about the best places to get shawarma and the places he visited when he had time off during his service. And he said he was planning to go back to school at a CUNY school for photography. And I asked him why. He said for journalism. Inspired by the Palestinians in Gaza who picked up their camera phones to show the world the truth of what was happening to them, such as Morteza Zaiza, gathering as many as 18 million followers on Instagram, exceeding figures such as Joe Biden. And he isn't alone. I've spoken about Aaron Bushnell, who set himself on fire in protest. Or you might have heard of Mike Preissner, who disrupted George W. Bush and said, "You sent me to Iraq on a lie, and my friends are dead because of you." We know the media lied to us about WMDs. We know we killed 1 million Iraqis for oil, yet we're still believing those same media channels and those same politicians. There are $5 billion worth of gas under Gaza, which Chevron right now is trying to steal. There are oil pipes in Ukraine. This isn't a well-kept secret. When Elizabeth Warren is asked in an interview why we're in Palestine, she didn't say to combat terrorism or to protect the Jewish home state. She said for national security. When Espiat is asked why are we in Ukraine, so many civilians are being killed, he doesn't say to protect Ukraine from Russia's invasion. He says to support Europe's economy. That's what he said, for Europe's economy. This isn't a well-kept secret. A lot of our friends and family are being killed for no reason. Countries are being destroyed, and American boys are being sent overseas for no reason.
Ms. Mohammed, your time is up.
Well, I'm really here to speak about Gaza. Yesterday morning, when I picked up my copy of the New York Times, I was confronted with this picture. Surviving Gaza. A young boy with both of his arms gone. I'm a teacher. I taught for 35 years. And to see this being done to children is beyond despicable. And I cannot believe that America is so involved in supplying the weapons that is doing this, and that we're not trying to work towards a ceasefire. And I ask all of you to please consider whatever you can do to stop this murder of children. And I'm just going to read a short poem by Ben Okri. And I just hope we can all think about this, because we saw a lot of service people being honored today. And I know that they understand that we need to have peace in our world. We cannot go on like this. I don't know how many have died or how many died before war flared up. There must be a way to listen to all the pain that burns in a people. Must be a way to hear all that anguish. Pain, creates deadness of heart. Distance makes all that suffering unreal. How else can great powers add bombs and missiles to an agony that's engulfing the world in fire and rage?
I'm going to give you another 30 seconds because I had to interrupt you, so go ahead.
How did we become so deaf to the death of innocent children and their mothers? How did we get to measure the value of one death against another with one worth 1,000 of the other? Surely the heart of the world has died. Surely we have turned to stone in our veins. I sit here staring at the sky wondering what could change the coldness in the soul that makes it possible for us to eat our food, go to work, and laugh with our families when we know that over in Gaza, a brief dream away, hundreds of thousands starved, their homes are destroyed, and their lives are broken.
Okay, Ms. Pentele, thank you very much. Okay. Next up is Samuel Yannick, and on deck is Virginia Lindsay.
Good morning, or is it now? Yes, morning still. I come to you today, come before you today as an individual of Jewish lineage. These times, people would say that these atrocities are being committed in our name to protect our people, but this is not the truth. They say that speaking out against Palestine is anti-Semitic. This is not the truth. Palestinians themselves are a Semitic people, and they hold lineage that is closer to the ancient peoples of the land than the people who claim to be indigenous to the land, who live in Israel, who settled in this land as settlers, as colonialists, and who devastate the land, tear up the olive trees, kill the people, erase the ancient knowledge, or attempt to, because as long as the Palestinians live, these knowledge will not be forgotten. The land will not forget. And as we are speaking today, people are dying, people are starving to death. The north of Gaza has been under siege for 52 days. No food has entered. No medical aid has entered. How can we sit here and not call for a ceasefire? I address each and every one of you in this room. How can we sit here and not call for a ceasefire? While people are starving and dying, children are being murdered, not only in Gaza, and also in Lebanon, in Yemen, in countless countries where war is being driven by this machinery of greed for resources. My friend Amal gave me this poem. This is by Rafat Al-Arir. He was murdered by the IOF in Gaza. And the last stanza of this poem, it has been painted on the Free Dairy Monument in Northern Ireland. It's called If I Must Die. If I must die, you must live to tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings, make it wipe the long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze, and bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself, sees the kite, my kite you made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment an angel is there, bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope, let it be a tale. And so in my last 6 seconds I say, how dare you for not calling for a ceasefire to this day. So I say, take action now.
Next up is Virginia Lindsay, and on deck is William Coquelle.
My name is Virginia Lindsay. I am a resident of Stony Brook with 2 young children in the 3 Village District. I'm finishing my master's in conflict transformation, peace building, and public theology. I've been involved full-time in peace building with Israel-Palestine conflict since 2021 and trained with an NGO based in DC, started a Republican advisor to Israel who was Condoleezza Rice's top aide, and a progressive Democrat international lawyer who was an advisor to Palestine in the early 2000s. Both recognized that for mutual flourishing for Israelis and Palestinians, Americans had to stop fanning the flame by escalating oppression and violence in the region through our distribution of weapons. I speak to both Palestinian and Israeli peacemakers every single day. Since they bear the brunt of our choices, tax investments, and arms deals, of which many are manufactured in Long Island, I'm using my time to amplify a few of their voices. And please, I quote, Rotem Levin, a Jewish Israeli and former IDF soldier. The U.S.'s unconditional and unconstitutional military support is the main reason why the genocide in Gaza is still going on. The only way to protect Israelis is by a lasting ceasefire and a systemic change that will create a real democracy for all people between the river and the sea. Youssef Khoury, a Palestinian Christian theologian and professor at Bethlehem Bible College. Americans need to stop being stumbling stone for peace and justice and be more concerned about the sacredness of human life and liberty of Palestinians. David Aharon, a Jewish Israeli peace activist in Tel Aviv. Stop sending weapons here and let us live. It would help to turn your weapons manufacturers into nonprofit organizations that promote life, not deliver death. Alice Cassia, a Palestinian Christian from Bethlehem and Israeli citizen, who started an interfaith movement and church built by the hands of Jewish, Christian, and Muslim Israelis and Palestinians. Her land has recently been stolen by settlers and the IEF, yet she maintains a commitment to love and nonviolence that has brought interfaith peace activists from 40 countries on all continents together. She says, tell them that Christians, Muslims, and Jews can live together in peace if the politics, politicians, and superpowers, weapons manufacturers, and profiteers stay out of our lives. The fact that we are paying for and providing weapons to a state that has killed over 17,000 children and created the most child amputees in human history should be a moral issue, but let me appeal to self-interest. This is a national security issue. Palestinian orphans and amputees know it is American bombs and political cover for Israel that has killed and maimed their families. For every American that advocates for a ceasefire and their lives, you are countering the only narrative that our country is currently offering, one that says we will kill you and your children because you do not matter.
All right, our last speaker is William Coquelle, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced that.
Thank you all. Yeah, my name is William Coquelle, and I live in East Patchogue. I've been there for 70 years. I'm also a veteran, a disabled veteran. I spent 16 months above Seoul, 10 months right on the DMZ with North Korea. So I have a little experience with the military. I've also volunteered with kids, mostly young men, big brothers and big sisters of Long Island. I volunteered at Veterans Memorial Gym in Shirley for 15 years working with kids. And what I found out that a lot of these kids are not getting nourishment, they're not getting food. I had one young man come up and he told me his stomach hurt. I said, "What did you have to eat today?" It's 5 o'clock at night. He said, "Nothing." So the reason I'm here is the amount of money that we are spending on military, just some of it could go to feed these kids, the future of the country. The legacy I'm going to leave behind is my tax money goes to kill people. That's right. There's an old saying, it's easy to spend other people's money. And boy, they can spend it. Billions and billions and billions of dollars over and over and over. And right in New York State, every day there's 800,000 people food challenged. So what I'm asking is to keep that in mind as you go along and hope that there is a change in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the last speaker we have signed up. Does anyone else want to address the legislature? Okay.